Hey Internet, Peter of the Geekiverse here. We had what would you call it, advanced little mini screening. I'm here with Nick Ramirez, first of all. We're going to talk a little bit about Doctor Strange. Just had a kind of a mini preview screening this week, and Nick was lucky enough to be there. So, tell me about tell me about the event a little bit.
It was a very short peek, kind of a way to advertise the movie because Doctor Strange is one of those like D-list characters. A lot of people aren't familiar with him, and basically we just get a little quick, brief pick of what his origin is going to be, and they cap it off with some cool action sequences. Bulk of it is really highlighting the visuals we're going to see in this movie and the graphics and what they're going to do with that to really make it stand out.
So we got a 15-minute trailer. Is that what it was?
Essentially, it was like clips of the movie, but there was also like a big chunk of like 10 minutes straight of like one scene in the movie.
Gotcha. Was there enough time to eat popcorn?
I don't eat popcorn, but my wife was able to put away about half a bucket. So.
All right. Okay. All right. So I'm not, I'm a Marvel guy from way back, but you're right. He's a D-list character. Tell me, like 2 seconds. Who's Doctor Strange?
Iron Man with magic.
Iron Man with magic.
Yep.
Explain.
He is very much equivalent to how Tony Stark is with technology, where he's the best. He's this visionary. He's creating things with technology that people haven't seen before. Doctor Strange does that with magic. He's got certain similarities characterization-wise. He's very arrogant, very confident because he is really that good. And a lot of the story arc is, him being knocked down a few pegs and having to rediscover who he is. So there are those similarities between him and Iron Man. And that's about where they kind of diverge. Doctor Strange is much more mystical. His character is a lot more spiritual. He's a lot more at peace with his demons and a lot more open-minded to new things. He's definitely one of the heavy hitters power-wise in the Marvel Universe.
Okay.
And he offers us some very interesting stories, some very interesting concepts, a lot of throwbacks to Eldritch abominations, and just visually he's always been really stunning.
Okay. So probably hard to tell this from 15 minutes. But does it feel like it's going to be legit to the source material that it was, that it's wrapped around?
I definitely got that impression. The characters are very reminiscent of what I've read in the comics. Very true to those styles. There are certain divergences, largely cosmetic divergences. Baron Mordo, he's black in the movie. Comics, he's white. That's the only difference I saw. He's still got that, very calm, collected coolness to him. Ancient One is still very otherworldly and kind of unnerving in presence-wise, even though it's a she in this movie, comics guy. But aside from those cosmetic differences, I think everything rang very true.
Okay. So is this our first dalliance of magic in the MCU?
It's the first time it's really being drawn front and center. We got a hint of it with Daredevil. They hinted to mystic elements to Madame Gao and the Hand. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this season they've introduced Ghost Rider, and they seem to be sticking very closely to the idea of him being tied to, Mephisto and Hell and things like that. This is the first time we're really going to see it front and center and acknowledged as this is the reality of this world. The other things, they've all been kind of hinting at it, and they've all been more about the heroes trying to wrap their heads around the idea of magic, because this is a world that's built on science. I think this is the first time we're really going to see magic as accepted as reality.
Interesting that this is a follow-up to last season Arrow in the DC TV universe. We had Damien Darhk as a character as the big bad through the whole thing, which was a little bit of a departure. They seem to use that a little better over there. They had Constantine as a show, and actually Constantine makes his appearances one episode kind of cameo. Wasn't even really in the whole episode in Arrow. So now we're getting elements from magic in both places.
Yep, both worlds are really trying to expand. I mean, we've seen this with the DCEU and the MCU. They're both trying to expand and include as many parts of their canon as possible. Not sure how it's going to play out in Doctor Strange. This is a world we've been rooted in science. They did that with Thor. They made him scientific. Hopefully they'll be able to introduce this new element without it completely destroying the world itself and making it a little harder to follow the canon.
So how do you feel, this is probably a place for a little speculation on your part, how do you feel that Doctor Strange fits into the MCU?
I've said this before. They're sticking to trilogies for those original Avengers. I think now what we're seeing is the development of the new Avengers, the next generation of Avengers. I think that what we're going to be seeing is Black Panther's going to slide into that Captain America position that we saw. We got Ant-Man floating around. I think Doctor Strange is going to kind of phase out Iron Man as maybe as an active superhero and really take that role in the Avengers of the heavy hitter, the big powerhouse with, lasers and bolts of energy. I think that's the role he's going to play in the Avengers, and I think that it's honestly a smart move because it's really going to be different from what we've seen with Stark. So instead of just having, rehashes of what we saw with the Avengers, we're getting a new take on those same kind of positions in the team, but completely different characters, completely different power sets.
Okay, so big thing, what do you think of Benedict Cumberbatch?
I think did a phenomenal job with what I saw. Benedict Cumberbatch plays the arrogant character very well. We saw that with Star Trek, when he played Khan. He was very arrogant, very confident, because he really was that dangerous. We've seen it on Sherlock. He really is that smart, so he's, portrays that very well. I think that's really his bread and butter, is playing those arrogant, cocky guys who you kind of want to punch, but the fact is, they're right to be that arrogant because they really are that good.
So, with Cumberbatch in this lead, the problem with him as an actor is that he's extremely sought after. Mm-hmm. So, do you feel like, one of my last questions is, do you feel like there's a 3-film franchise of just Doctor Strange, or is it he gets this one movie and then we move into the new Avengers and you get the team films? What do you feel like? Which direction do you feel like that's going to go?
I think that we all expected Ant-Man to be a one-off. I think Doctor Strange can definitely carry 3 films, and I think Benedict Cumberbatch, he's definitely locked into a contract that says he has to. That's what Marvel does with everyone. I think that as long as the movie does really well, people respond well to it, we're going to get a 3-movie franchise out of this.
It looked a little bit, from the trailers that I've seen, and I've heard people refer to it as Marvel Inception.
I think that's an oversimplification. There's, what Inception did was take these very surreal images and put them into the film, into a crime film. And that was one of the things I loved about Inception. Doctor Strange is, pulling from that same kind of concept of incorporating this surreal imagery into a visual medium, into a movie. The difference is that, as opposed to a crime film, we're getting a full-on magic fantasy film. And I definitely understand the whole, buildings and cities melding together. Imagery is very evocative of Inception because that was one of the big scenes that they sold it on. But the time I saw in the movie, that was such a minor part, and it was really just kind of meant to ease you into the more out there, weird, bizarre images that you're going to see following it.
Right, but that weird, bizarre imagery, do you think that's going to be too much do you think it's going to turn some people off?
I think it could. I think that there's, this is going to be one of those movies that you either really love the images in it or you really hate them. And I'm really hoping that a lot of people respond well to it because what I saw was just gorgeous. But I can definitely see how it would be a bit much.
That was one of the complaints for Inception.
Yeah.
Was that it was just a weird kind of, visual trip.
I think the important thing is making those visuals have an impact and not just be there to just look cool. I think it's important for those visual images, if you're going to go that oddball with it, to have there be a reasoning for it, something that's meant to, invoke in you emotionally or subconsciously. And, that's where we run into problems with other directors who've tried that. It's all style, no real substance to the image. And that's where the great, artists who've practiced that form, Salvador Dali and such, they had a point, a purpose to these very bizarre images. That's what this movie needs to keep in order to have it actually matter and not just turn people off.
And if it doesn't do well, because, the visual, blah, everybody's like, what's going on? What happens to the character Doctor Strange? Do we see more of him?
I bet it'll be similar to Hulk. We didn't get a follow-up to the Incredible Hulk movie with Edward Norton. but we'll probably still see him floating around in the background. They're pretty committed to doing the magic stuff. And there's plenty of avenues for him to show up, even if it's just in a guest role or just in the Avengers.
Yeah, you're not gonna, in my opinion, you're not gonna get Benedict Cumberbatch to sign up for guest roles.
Well, he's got a 9-picture contract. That's the standard for Marvel, so they can tell him he has to.
All right. Well, that's a quick peek at the preview of Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange comes out, I think, November 4th.
November 4th.
November 4th, and I'm pretty sure that you will see Nick and I right back here when the time comes to talk about the actual film and how it does. So stay tuned to our YouTube channel. We got all sorts of content on various things here at the Geekiverse, and we look forward to spending some time with you on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in.
Oh, alright, those floating boxes, those are fine. They don't need those to be on the ground or anything. Physics, alright. Ooh, okay, those grenades hurt. So those grenades are from an actual plane. And I got sniped immediately. Alrighty then. Alright, so yeah, sniping in this game, I haven't really figured it out yet. We're gonna make attempt number 2 here.